Revenge with Karen.
I breathe in the smell of ozone and stale Dunkin' Donuts coffee like it's oxygen. It's 4:13 a.m. on a Tuesday, and while the rest of New York is dreaming about their pathetic little lives, I'm sitting in a server room that's colder than my ex-husband's heart, watching the heartbeat of $1 billion flicker on a monitor. They call me the chief systems architect, which is corporate speak for the janitor who cleans up the algorithmic vomit. For 10 years, I've been the only thing standing between this trading firm and a digital apocalypse. I'm the one who patches the holes in the hull while the captains are upstairs measuring their dicks. I'm Rebecca. I'm 45. I have a nicotine patch itching on my left arm that feels like a chemical burn, and I have zero patience for stupidity. If you're into stories about corporate burnouts, lighting a match and watching the empire crumble, me a solid and smash that subscribe button and hit the like, because my therapist says sharing my trauma is healing. But I think revenge is better medicine. Seriously, hit the button, because what I'm about to tell you is going to make your HR orientation look like a Disney movie. The firm was called Vanguardian Capital. Stupid name. It was built by Old Man Cole. Cole was a shark, but he was a shark who knew how to swim. He respected the code, knew that the trading platform I built, a monstrosity of C++ and legacy scripts held together by my sheer willpower, was the only reason he could buy his third island. When he died 6 months ago, I actually poured a shot of whiskey into my morning coffee. A toast to the last competent man in the building. Then came Tyler. Tyler Cole, the son, the successor. A 32-year-old trust fund baby who thinks cloud computing means vaping on a roof deck. Tyler didn't walk, he strutted, usually wearing one of those puffy vests that make men look like they're about to go hiking in a mall. He brought in a whole crew of disruptors, guys named things like Chad and Braden, who used words like synergy and disruption to mask the fact that they couldn't code hello world if their lives depended on it. My routine was sacred. 4 a.m. arrival. Check the Asian market sync. Flush the cache logs. Verify the handshake protocols with the NYSE. It was a symphony of logic in a world of chaos. I loved it. I loved the hum of the racks. It was the only place where things made sense. Then came the Slack notification. It was 10 a.m. The markets were open. The floor was buzzing. My 3 monitors were cascading with green waterfalls of data. And then a ping. Hash culture shoutouts channel it here from Tyler CEO. Hey team, let's get some energy going. What's everyone's spirit animal for this quarter? Mine is the wolf. Hash hustle, hash grind, he posted a meme. A generic, deep-fried JPEG of a wolf howling at a moon with the text, "The wolf does not concern himself with the opinions of sheep." I stared at it. It was so profoundly stupid, so violently mediocre, that my fingers moved before my brain could stop them. I didn't want to be a wolf. I didn't want to be a sheep. It was the shepherd making sure the wolves didn't eat the electric fence and fry themselves. I typed one word. Rebecca Sterling, correct. That was it, just correct, because it was correct. He was a wolf, a predator with no brain, and we were the sheep keeping his bank account fluffy. But apparently, in the twisted logic of the corporate frat house, agreeing with the boss is insubordination if you don't use enough emojis. 10 minutes later, my desk phone rang. Wasn't the trading floor screaming about a lag. It wasn't a broker panicking about a tick rate. It was Linda from HR, Linda, whose smile was so tight it looked like it was painful, and who smelled like vanilla body spray and compliance lawsuits. Rebecca, she chirped, her voice dripping with fake concern. Can you pop into the focus room? Tyler wants to have a quick sync about alignment. I knew right then. I felt it in my gut, cold drop like swallowing an ice cube whole. I looked at my screens. The platform was purring, 99.999% uptime, zero latency. I had spent a decade building a fortress, and now the court jester was calling me to the throne room. I stood up, grabbed my pack of Marlboros, even though I couldn't smoke inside. Holding the box was a comfort object, like a rosary for sinners, and walked past the rows of junior devs. Didn't look up. They were terrified. They knew the scent of blood. I walked into that glass-walled fishbowl of an office, and I saw Tyler sitting on the edge of the desk, swinging a loafer that cost more than my first car. He wasn't looking at the profit margins. He wasn't looking at the system stability reports I sent him every morning. He was looking at his phone, probably checking his likes on that damn wolf post. Rebecca, he said, not looking up. Take a seat. Need to talk about your vibe. I didn't sit. I just stood there, letting the silence stretch until it got uncomfortable. I wanted him to feel the weight of what he was about to do. I wanted him to look the person who kept his lights on in the eye. He finally looked up, flashing a smile that was all teeth and no warmth. So, he said, Linda tells me you're not really engaging with the new direction. The meme, correct. It felt a little aggressive, a little passive-aggressive. Need positive energy here, Bex. Bex. Nobody calls me Bex, not even my mother, and she's been drunk since 1998. I'm here to ensure the trading engine executes orders, Tyler, I said, my voice gravelly from years of stress and smoke. I don't have a spirit animal. I have a root access password. He laughed, a dry, hollow sound. Yeah, see, that's the thing. That old guard mentality, it's toxic. My dad loved it, sure, but we're pivoting. We're a tech company now, not just a trading firm. We need culture carriers, and honestly, you're scaring the interns. I looked at Linda. She was studying her notepad like it contained the secrets of the universe. You're firing me, I stated. It wasn't a question. We're transitioning you out, Tyler corrected, sliding a thick envelope across the mahogany. Effective immediately. Security will walk you down. No need to log off. IT will handle the credential wipe. IT will handle it. The irony tasted like copper in my mouth. I am IT, you absolute walnut, I thought, but I didn't say it. I looked at the envelope. I looked at Tyler, who was already bored, already thinking about his lunch reservation at Nabu. Okay, I said. Tyler blinked. He expected a fight. He expected me to scream, to cry, to beg. Wanted a reaction he could post about later on LinkedIn under a heading like hard decisions. Leadership is lonely. Okay, he asked. Okay, I repeated. If I'm not a culture fit, I should go. I turned around and walked out. I didn't shake his hand. I didn't look at Linda. My heart was hammering a drum solo against my ribs, but my face was stone. I walked back to my desk. 2 security guards, guys I've bought Christmas donuts for 10 years running, already there, looking at their shoes, ashamed. Sorry, Rebecca, one mumbled. Orders. It's fine, heavyweights, I said, grabbing my bag. Just doing your job. I didn't touch my keyboard. I didn't need to, because Tyler made one fatal mistake. He thought the system was the computers in the rack. He didn't realize the system was me. And he definitely didn't know about the little digital ghost I'd left in the machine 5 years ago, buried under 3 million lines of code. I wasn't just leaving. I was taking the soul of the company with me. But not yet. I needed to let them think they'd won. There is a specific kind of humiliation reserved for corporate executions. It's not the firing itself, it's the theater of it. It's the cardboard box. It's the way your badge doesn't beep when you try to open the break room door because they cut your access before you even stood up from the HR chair. It's the way your coworkers, people you've shared birthday cakes and funeral tears with, suddenly find the fascinating texture of their drywall incredibly interesting, so they don't have to make eye contact. I stood at my desk, my command center for a decade, and tossed my personal effects into a jagged little box. A framed photo of my dog, deceased. A stress ball shaped like a grenade, ironic. A mug that said I turn coffee into code, cliché, but a gift from old man Cole. Tyler had followed me out, hovering at a safe distance, like I was a radioactive isotope. He was leaning against a pillar, arms crossed, watching the show. He wanted the floor to see this. He wanted the old guard to see the matriarch fall. Make sure she doesn't touch the terminals. Tyler barked at the security guard, loud enough for the whole floor to hear. Liability reasons. I froze. My hand was hovering over my ergonomic mouse. I turned slowly to look at him. Tyler, I said, my voice low but carrying across the silent room. I wrote the kernel that validates your paycheck. If I wanted to hurt this system, I wouldn't need a terminal. I could do it with a toaster and a longing gaze. He sneered. Just get your shit, Rebecca. Then he did the unthinkable. He waved a hand toward the glass doors, and a guy walked in. He looked about 24, was wearing skinny jeans that defied physics, and a t-shirt that said Bitcoin billionaire in glittery text. He had the glazed eyes of someone who spends 18 hours a day on Discord and thinks networking means sliding into DMs. Everyone, Tyler announced, clapping his hands. I want you to meet Brooks. Brooks is coming in as our new lead tech evangelist. He's going to be taking over the architecture role, but reimagining it for the Web3 era. Brooks gave a little wave. Sup guys, big fan of the vibe here. Let's disrupt some paradigms. I almost laughed. I physically had to bite my tongue until I tasted copper. Evangelist, I was an architect. I built cathedrals of data. This kid looked like he built Lego sets and lost the instructions. Brooks, I said, zip-tying my bag of phone chargers. Do you know C++? Do you know the legacy COBOL bridges we use for the settlement layer? Brooks looked at me like I had asked him if he knew how to churn butter. COBOL? Whoa, boomer tech. Nah, we're gonna migrate everything to a Rust-based blockchain ledger. It's trustless, bro, trustless, I repeated. Yeah, it certainly is. I looked at the server room door one last time. The lights were blinking, green, green, green. A steady rhythm, a heartbeat. They didn't know their mother was leaving. Didn't know they were being adopted by a step-parent who thought they were outdated toys. I felt a pang of genuine grief. Screw the job, but for the work. The art. It's hard to explain to people who don't code, but that system was beautiful. It was a chaotic, messy, brilliant knot of logic that handled billions of dollars a second without blinking. It was me. And now, Bitcoin Brooks was going to take a sledgehammer to it. I grabbed my box. Good luck, Brooks. I said, read the documentation. Specifically, the file labeled "Do Not Touch" under penalty of death. It's not a joke, Brooks laughed. Documentation is for people who can't intuit the code, brah. I walked to the elevator, the walk of shame. But as I passed the rows of desks, I saw something. Erin, a junior dev I'd hired straight out of MIT 2 years ago, looked up. She had tears in her eyes. She gave me a tiny, imperceptible nod. She knew. She knew exactly what was happening. She knew the captain was being thrown overboard, and the ship was now being steered by monkeys on cocaine. The elevator doors closed, shutting out the view of Tyler's smug face and Brooks's confused grin. I stood in the silence of the descending car. The music was playing a soft jazz version of "Don't Stop Believin'." I looked at my reflection in the polished brass doors. I looked tired. I looked old. I looked like a woman who had just been discarded. But then I smiled. A real smile, a nasty smile, because Tyler didn't know about the inheritance clause. See, old man Cole wasn't stupid either. He knew his son was a moron. He knew that one day, Tyler might try to paint the engine pink. So, 5 years ago, during a massive system overhaul, Cole and I sat in his office with a bottle of scotch and drafted a digital will. It wasn't a legal document. It was a subroutine. A piece of code buried so deep in the kernel that you'd need to decompile the entire OS to find it. We called it Inheritance Clause 47. The logic was simple. If my biometric ID, my specific keystroke cadence and login hash, was absent from the system for more than 72 hours, the system would assume the architect was dead or compromised. It wouldn't explode. It wouldn't delete data. That would be criminal. No, it would do something much funnier. It would revert. It would strip away every cloud integration, every API bridge, every modern disruption we'd added in the last decade, and roll the system back to the 2013 safe mode configuration. A configuration that required manual command line authorization for every single trade. And the only person with the authorization codes, old man Cole dead and me fired. The elevator pinged for the lobby. I walked out into the harsh sunlight of downtown Manhattan. I took a deep breath of exhaust fumes. I fished my phone out of my pocket. I had one last text to send before they remotely wiped it. I texted Erin, the crying junior dev, watch the logs on Friday, and buy popcorn. Then I threw the phone into the nearest trash can. It felt good. It felt like dropping a match. The subway ride home to Queens was a blur of noise and body odor. But for the first time in 20 years, I didn't care. Usually, I'd be checking the load balancers on my phone, stressing over a 2% variance in the Tokyo feed. Today, I just watched a rat drag a slice of pizza across the tracks and thought, good for you, buddy. You've got more ambition than my replacement. I got back to my apartment, a one-bedroom that smelled like old books and insomnia. Did the first thing a newly unemployed woman of my stature should do. I opened a bottle of Pinot Noir that cost $14 and tasted like vengeance. I sat on my couch, still wearing my business casual armor, and stared at the blank TV. My brain was still syncing with the office. I kept waiting for the phantom buzz of a pager that no longer existed. I needed to decompress, but my mind kept drifting back to the code. Inheritance Clause 47. I remembered the night we wrote it. It was 2018. The market had taken a nosedive, and we were pulling an all-nighter to recalibrate the risk algorithms. Old man Cole was sitting on the floor, literally on the carpet, eating Chinese takeout with a plastic fork. Becky, he'd said, soy sauce on his tie. What happens if I drop dead? The stock dips, the board panics, and we keep trading, I'd said, not looking up from my screen. No, he said, serious. What happens if Tyler takes over? I stopped typing. We both knew Tyler. Even back then, he was a disaster. He'd once tried to expense a stripper pole as office furniture. If Tyler takes over, I said, he'll try to maximize short-term yield by bypassing the safety protocols. He'll strip the redundancy to save on server costs. Cole nodded. Exactly. He'll drive the Ferrari off a cliff because he thinks brakes are for pusses. He looked me in the eye. Build a governor. Build a dead man's switch. If you aren't there to steer the ship, I want the ship to stop. I don't want my name on a crash, so I built it. It wasn't malware. I want to be clear about that. I'm a professional. I didn't write a virus. I wrote a dependency. I made the modern, high-speed trading algorithm dependent on a specific, rotating encryption key that was generated by my user profile every morning when I logged in. It was a keep-alive signal. Without that daily handshake, my specific login, my specific biometric validation, the system would get nervous. It would wait 72 hours, a weekend buffer. And then, if it didn't feel my hand on the wheel, it would assume the bridge was unmanned. And when the bridge is unmanned, the protocol is safety. Extreme safety. It would lock down. It would sever connections to the external high-frequency liquidity pools, the dangerous stuff, and revert to manual settlement mode. Manual settlement means every trade has to be typed in. By a human, one by one. In 2013, that was fine. We did a few thousand trades a day. In 2023, Vanguardian Capital did 4 million trades a second. If that system reverted to manual mode during market hours, it wouldn't be a crash. It would be a dam bursting. It would be a backlog of billions of dollars piling up against a wall of logic that demanded a human signature. I took a long sip of wine. It stained my lips purple. It was Tuesday. Wednesday, my profile would be inactive. Thursday, the system would flag a staffing anomaly. Friday morning, the 72-hour timer would expire right around the opening bell. I pictured Brooks, the tech evangelist, trying to explain to the board of directors why the supercomputer had suddenly decided it wanted to party like it was 1999. He'd probably try to reboot it. Would be his first mistake. Rebooting triggers the lockout integrity check. That requires the founder's physical RSA token to bypass. The token was in a safe deposit box in the Cayman Islands, or maybe Tyler pawned it for NFT apes, who knows? I felt a little twinge of guilt. Not for Tyler, he deserved to be roasted over a slow fire, but for the chaos. Pension funds used our platform. Heavy stuff. But then I remembered the way Tyler looked at me. Scaring the interns. We need a culture fit. He fired me for being competent. He fired me for being an adult in a daycare center. I poured another glass. To the wolf, I whispered to the empty room. May he choke on the sheep. I slept for 12 hours. I dreamt of falling Tetris blocks that I couldn't stop. Wednesday passed in a haze of daytime television and aggressive napping. It's amazing how much free time you have when you aren't carrying the weight of the global economy on your shoulders. I actually went to a grocery store at 2 p.m. Do you know there are people who just walk around at 2 p.m.? It was wild. But I couldn't disconnect completely. I logged into LinkedIn on my personal laptop, an ancient ThinkPad that weighed as much as a brick, and the notifications were already rolling in. So sorry to hear their loss. Let's grab coffee. Code for tell me the gossip. And then the messages from inside the house. Aaron, junior dev, he moved your desk. He literally had maintenance move your desk to the basement storage room because he wanted more feng shui for the ping pong table. I laughed, of course, erasing the evidence. Aaron, Brooks is trying to install a new patch. He says the latency is uncool. He's turning off the checksum validation to speed things up. My blood ran cold. Checksum validation prevents the system from accidentally buying 10,000 shares of Apple when you only wanted 10. Turning it off is like taking the airbags out of a car to make it go faster. I typed back, do not let him do that. Aaron, I tried. He called me a negative Nancy. He's deploying it tonight. I closed the laptop. My hands were shaking, not from fear, but from rage. They were dismantling the engine while the plane was in the air. Thursday. Countdown was at 48 hours of silence from my account. The ghost in the machine was waking up. I received a text from an unknown number. Hey Rebecca, it's Greg from Ops. Look, I know things ended weird, but do you have the admin password for the cooling array? Brooks changed the thermostat to 75 degrees because he was chilly, and now the servers are screaming. I stared at the phone. 75 degrees. Server rooms need to be 65 or lower. 75 puts them in the yellow zone. I typed, ask the wolf, deleted it. I typed 123,456, deleted it. I put the phone down. I wasn't an employee, I was a liability. If I gave them the password and something went wrong, they'd blame me. She tampered with it, no. Silence was my only shield. I let Greg sweat. I let the server sweat. Thursday night, I couldn't sleep. I knew the internal timer of inheritance clause 47 was ticking down. It was linked to the system clock. System state, user, Rebecca admin, absent. Last login, 60 hours. Heartbeat, failed. Action, prepare for legacy reversion. I imagined the code executing in the dark. Silent lines of logic shifting. Digital bridges raising their drawbridges. The cloud sinks pausing, waiting for a command that would never come. I wondered if Brooks noticed the slight delay in the batch processing. I wondered if Tyler noticed that his dashboard was refreshing 0.5 seconds slower. Probably not. They were probably at a happy hour, toasting to the new era. I woke up Friday morning at 9 o'clock a.m., a luxury. The markets opened at 9:30. I made coffee. I sat on my balcony. I watched the Manhattan skyline in the distance. Somewhere in that concrete jungle, in a glass tower, bomb made of pure logic was about to detonate. 9:29 a.m. I opened Twitter or X, whatever, on my phone. I searched for $Vang, our firm's ticker symbol, and Vanguardian. Nothing yet, just bots. 9:30 a.m., the opening bell. I took a sip of coffee. 9:31 a.m. A tweet from at Day Trade King 69. Yo, WTF is going on with Vanguardian execution? My order is stuck on pending for a full minute. 9:32 a.m. At Wall Street bets alt. Vanguardian platform down. I can't exit my position. I'm losing thousands here. Scam 9:35 a.m. My phone started buzzing. Not a text, a call. It was Tyler. I watched the screen light up. Tyler CEO. I let it ring. I took another sip. Correct, I whispered to the coffee mug. You have to understand what manual settlement mode looks like in a modern trading environment. Doesn't look like a crash. A crash is a blue screen. A crash is silence. This was worse. This was constipation. The system was still running. The lights were on. The screens were active. But instead of orders flying through the fiber optic cables at the speed of light, they were hitting a wall. A wall that politely asked, please authorize transaction hash 9,948,273. Y/N? At 9:30 a.m. were 10 orders. At 9:30:05 there were 10,000. At 9:31 there were 1,000,000. The queue was backing up exponentially. Imagine trying to drain the Atlantic Ocean through a drinking straw. That was the Vanguardian network right now. I didn't answer Tyler's call. I put the phone on Do Not Disturb and switched to my laptop. I pulled up CNBC. They were talking about inflation. Boring. Then, breaking news banner flashed red at the bottom of the screen. Trading glitch reported at major firm. The anchor touched her earpiece. We're hearing reports of a massive liquidity freeze at Vanguardian Capital. Traders are reporting that orders are being acknowledged, but not executed. We go now to Bob Pisani at the NYSE. Bob looked frantic. It's chaos down here, Sue. Vanguardian is a major market maker for mid-cap tech stocks. Liquidity has completely dried up. We're seeing spreads widen to $5. Nobody can buy, nobody can sell through their pipes. It's like someone pulled the plug. I smiled. Someone didn't pull the plug. Someone just put the plug back in the 2013 socket. My phone vibrated again. Linda HR, Rebecca, please pick up. It's an emergency. I ignored it. Greg Ops. Becky, the system is asking for a RSA key from 2015. What is happening? I ignored it. No number Brooks. Yo, the cloud bridge is gone. Did you delete the AWS creds? Not cool. I actually laughed out loud at that one. The cloud bridge wasn't gone. It was just ignored. The system was currently looking for a local server in the basement that we threw out 4 years ago. It was looking for its old home. I decided to check the public-facing status page of Vanguardian. Usually it says, all systems operational. Latency, 4 ms. Now it said, system status. Legacy protocol active. Operator override required. Current queue, 4,500,201 orders. Estimated clearing time, 14 years. 14 years, that was the math. At human typing speed, it would take 14 years to clear the backlog of 5 minutes of trading. I poured a bowl of cereal. The beauty of it was the why. They couldn't just fix it because they didn't know what was broken. There was no error code. The system thought it was working perfectly. It was doing exactly what Old Man Cole told it to do. If the pilot is dead, stop the plane. They couldn't patch it because Brooks, the genius, had locked the code repository to migrate to the blockchain or whatever nonsense he was doing. And even if he unlocked it, Inheritance Clause 47 had highest level root privileges. It superseded the admin. To override it, you needed 2 things. 1. Founder's key in the Cayman Islands. 2. The architect's biometric handshake, sitting on a couch in Queens eating Cheerios. By 10:15 a.m., the estimated losses for the firm's clients were hitting $50 million. By 10:30, the SEC halted trading on 3 stocks because the volatility caused by our freeze was tanking the market. My doorbell rang. I froze. It couldn't be them, not this fast. I walked to the peephole. It wasn't the police, wasn't Tyler, it was a courier. I opened the door. Delivery for Rebecca Sterling, the guy said bored. He handed me a large fruit basket. The card read, so sorry to see you go, best of luck. The HR team, it must have been scheduled automatically the day I was fired. I looked at the basket. It had a pineapple. I took the basket inside. I sat back down. Thanks, Linda, I said to the pineapple. I'll enjoy this while you guys are burning. Then the phone rang again. This time it was a number I recognized. It was the personal cell of the chairman of the board, a man who terrified Tyler, a man who terrified everyone. I looked at the ringing phone. This was it, the leverage point. I could let it ring and watch them burn to ash, or I could answer and name my price. I let it ring 3 times, 4, then I picked up. Hello, I said, sounding groggy like I'd been sleeping. Miss Sterling, the chairman's voice was like grinding stones. This is Arthur Vance. Why is my trading floor currently using paper tickets and crying? Mr. Vance, I said, putting my feet up on the coffee table. I believe that's what we call a culture pivot. There was a silence on the other end of the line that was heavier than lead. Arthur Vance didn't do jokes. He didn't do culture. He did money. And right now, he was losing a lot of it. Cut the crap, Rebecca, Vance growled. Tyler says you sabotaged the system before you left. Says you planted a logic bomb. Legal is already drafting a subpoena. Let them draft it, I said, my voice steady. And while they're at it, have them pull the employment contract I signed 10 years ago. Specifically, the addendum regarding critical infrastructure continuity. What are you talking about? I didn't sabotage anything, Arthur. The system is working exactly as designed. It's in founder protection mode. It detects that the authorized architect is gone, that the founder is dead. It assumes a hostile takeover or a catastrophic staffing failure. So it reverted to the safest possible state, manual confirmation. Safest? Vance shouted. We're bleeding $10 million a minute. Safety is relative, I countered. Old man Cole wanted to make sure that some idiot kid didn't inherit the keys to the Ferrari and drive it into a wall at 200 mph without supervision. Turns out, he was right. Heard Vance breathing. He was putting it together. He was realizing that Tyler, the idiot kid, had fired the supervision. Brooks, Vance spat the name like a curse. The new guy, can he fix it? Brooks, I laughed. Arthur, Brooks thinks Java is a type of coffee. Brooks is currently trying to figure out why his blockchain patch isn't syncing with a server that ceased to exist in the system logic an hour ago. Brooks is locked out. The system doesn't recognize him. To the system. It's an intruder. How do we turn it off? Vance asked. The anger was fading, replaced by desperation. You need the override codes, I said. Do you have Cole's physical token? It's unavailable, probate issues. Right, so you need the co-signer, you, Vance said. Me. Okay, Vance said, name your price. Consulting fee, triple your hourly rate. Just get in here and type the code. I took a drag of my unlit cigarette. No, I don't work for Vanguardian anymore. Arthur, I was fired for cultural misalignment. My badge is deactivated. My liability insurance is void. If I touch that keyboard, I'm hacking. I'm not going to prison because Tyler wanted to hire a crypto bro. I will reinstate you, Vance said instantly. Full benefits. Retroactive, not enough, double salary. Not about the money, Arthur. Then what do you want? He screamed. I have investors jumping out of windows. I want Tyler, I said. Silence. Excuse me. I want Tyler gone, I said. And I want Brooks gone. And I want an apology. A public one. Issued to the entire company. Admitting that the old guard wasn't toxic, it was structural. And I want my title back, Chief Systems Architect, with a seat on the board. You want a seat on the board? Vance sounded incredulous. Your IT support. I am the platform, Arthur, I said, channeling every ounce of rage I'd swallowed for a decade. I am the reason you have a job. I am the reason your yacht floats. Today you learned what happens when the IT support walks away. The building falls down. Vance was quiet for a long time. I could hear shouting in the background. I could hear the chaos of the trading floor. I can't fire the CEO in the middle of a crisis, Vance said weakly. Then I guess you better start typing, I said. 4 million trades in the queue. If you start now, you might finish by the time the sun burns out. I hung up. My hands were shaking again. I had just blackmailed a billionaire, but it felt correct. I walked to the window. I wondered how long it would take. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed. It wasn't Vance. It was a notification from the company-wide email list, which I was technically still on, thanks to their incompetence in offboarding me properly. From Board of Directors subject, urgent, leadership restructuring, I opened it. Effective immediately. Tyler Cole has stepped down as CEO to pursue personal interests. Brooks H. has been relieved of his duties. We are pleased to announce the return of Rebecca Sterling as Chief Information Officer and Interim Head of Operations. I smiled. I grabbed my coat. I grabbed the pineapple. Time to go to work. Walking back into the building felt like entering a disaster zone. The lobby was filled with panicked traders pacing in circles, screaming into phones. The receptionist, usually a beacon of calm, looked like she had seen a ghost. When she saw me, her jaw literally dropped. Miss Sterling, she whispered. Thank God. I marched to the elevator. I didn't need a badge. Security saw me coming and practically threw the turnstiles open. Welcome back, Rebecca, the guard said, sweating. I rode up to the 40th floor. When the doors opened, the noise hit me. It wasn't the usual hum of business. It was the roar of panic. People were running, literally running, with stacks of paper. It looked like the floor of the NYSC in 1929. I walked straight toward the server room, or the data center as we called it. I passed Tyler's office. He was packing. He looked up as I walked by. His face was gray. He looked smaller somehow. The puffy vest looked deflated. He didn't say anything. He just looked at me, then looked away. He knew. He knew he had poked the bear, and the bear had eaten his career. I reached the main operations center. Vance was there. The entire board was there. Brooks was there, sitting in a corner, looking like he was about to vomit. When I walked in, the room went silent. She's here, someone whispered. Vance stepped forward. He looked 10 years older than he had on the phone. Fix it, he said, please. I didn't say a word. I walked to the main terminal, the master console. It was locked. Screen, system halted. Manual override required. I sat down in the chair, my chair. They hadn't even had time to adjust the height. I looked at the keyboard. I looked at Brooks. Hey, Brooks, I said. He looked up, eyes wide. Pay attention, I said. This is what a legacy bridge looks like. I placed my hand on the biometric scanner. Beep. Identity confirmed, Sterling R. I typed in a command line string. It wasn't magic. It wasn't complex code. It was sudo / restore integrity protocol force UR Sterling. Then I hit enter. The screen flickered. The red text vanished. A loading bar appeared, re-establishing cloud uplinks. 10%, 40%, 100%. Syncing queue, the room held its breath. Then, the sound changed. The chaotic shouting on the trading floor outside suddenly stopped, replaced by the familiar, rhythmic ding-ding-ding of trade confirmations executing. Waterfall of data on the big screens turned from red static to flowing green numbers. The backlog began to clear. Trades executed, 1,000, 50,000, 1 million. The dam had broken. The river was flowing again. I spun the chair around to face the room. We're back online, I said, lighting a cigarette. Right there in the server room. Latency is stabilizing at 3 milliseconds. You lost about 60 million in the outage, but the ship is floating. Vance exhaled a breath that sounded like a tire deflating. Thank you. Don't thank me, I said, pointing at the screen with my cigarette. Thank old man Cole. He knew you idiots would try to break his toy. I stood up. I walked over to Brooks. Get out of my seat, I said. He wasn't in my seat, but he scrambled up anyway. I was just following the roadmap. Your roadmap was a napkin drawing, I said. Go back to TikTok, kid. The adults are working. Brooks fled. I looked at Vance. I expect the contract on my desk by Monday, and the apology email sent by 5 p.m. today. Done, Vance said. Anything else? I looked around the room. The servers were humming. The lights were blinking. The smell of ozone was back. Yeah, I said. Someone get me a coffee, black, and get my desk out of the basement. The next few weeks were a blur of vindication. The apology email went out at 4:55 p.m. that Friday. It was beautiful. Apologize for the recent operational disruption caused by an ill-advised transition strategy. Translated, we fired the only person who knows how the machine works, and we are idiots. Tyler didn't just leave, he was erased. The board, terrified of another glitch, scrubbed his bio from the website before he was even out of the elevator. I heard he moved to Miami to start a crypto wellness retreat. Good luck to him. I hope his AC breaks, and the technician asks for a biometric key to fix it. Brooks tried to sue for wrongful termination. I sent his lawyer a log of his Git commits, the changes he tried to make to the code. The lawyer dropped the case the next day. Turns out, attempted negligent destruction of financial infrastructure isn't a great legal standing. I got my board seat. I was the only person in the boardroom wearing jeans and a hoodie. Nobody said a damn thing. When I spoke, they took notes. When I said no, they stopped. But the best part wasn't the power. It was the Monday morning after the crash. I walked onto the trading floor. Usually the traders ignore the IT staff. We are ghosts to them. But that Monday, as I walked to the coffee machine, the room went quiet. Then one guy, Mike, a senior broker, started clapping. Then Aaron joined in. Then the whole floor. It wasn't a standing ovation. It was a slow, respectful clap. An acknowledgement. They knew who held the keys. I raised my coffee cup to them. Get back to work, I grumbled. They laughed. They went back to work. The system hummed. The green numbers fell. I was the wolf. They were the sheep. But at least the sheep were safe. So that's the story. That's how I held a billion-dollar company hostage with a few lines of code and a refusal to be disrespected. I'm still there. I'm the CIO now, but I still spend my mornings in the server room. I still trust the machines more than the people. The machines don't lie, they don't have egos, they don't post wolves on Slack. If you treat them right, they run. If you treat them like trash, they stop. It's a simple rule. Humans could learn a lot from C++. I kept inheritance clause 47 in the code. Vance asked me to remove it. I told him I did. I lied. It's still there, buried deep, waiting, because you never know when the next Tyler is going to walk through the door. You never know when the next disruptor is going to try to reinvent the wheel. And I need to make sure that when I eventually retire or die, the system remembers me. I look at the server sometimes and I pat the metal casing. Good girl, I whisper. To all the back office people out there, the sysadmins, the PC techs, the janitors, the logistics coordinators, people who actually make the world run while the visionaries take the credit, do not let them devalue you. Do not let them treat you like a line item. You are the infrastructure. And without you, they are just men in expensive suits standing in the dark. If they push you, let the system crash. Let the AC die. Let the trash pile up. Remind them who holds the keys. This is Rebecca Sterling, signing off. I have a sync window in 5 minutes, and I need a smoke. Appreciate you sticking around, you wise old rebels. Smash that subscribe button, or this fossil might just cause another epic fiasco.